Chosen one. Heaven saw what no one else did, when you bowed your head in quiet obedience, when your lips spoke no defense, and your heart whispered only, "Yes, Lord." An earthquake was recorded in the spirit realm, not the kind that shakes the earth beneath your feet, but the kind that ripples through unseen dimensions, commanding angels to attention and forcing the darkness to retreat. You did not realize that your stillness carried sound. You thought your silence was weakness, but heaven called it warfare. You were not abandoned in that moment of surrender. You were enlisted. The unseen trembled because you chose obedience over argument. The whisper of your submission was louder than the screams of rebellion. The world may never know how much strength it took to stay still, but heaven knows. Every tear you shed, every moment you bit your tongue instead of striking back, each became a declaration of loyalty to the throne of God. The armies of light shifted their formation because of your decision to obey. You did not see it, but the enemy's camp began to crumble. Every demon that plotted against your peace was silenced by the sound of your surrender. When you refused to fight flesh with flesh, the spirit realm roared with divine authority. That is what happens when a chosen one obeys quietly. Your act became a weapon sharper than any sword, a sound purer than any worship song, a movement that changed the very atmosphere of heaven and earth. You see, heaven is not moved by noise, it is moved by obedience. You may think your quiet yes was small, but that yes unlocked something ancient and holy. It signaled to heaven that you could be trusted with deeper mysteries. It proved to God that your loyalty was not based on applause, but on conviction. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, the word of the Lord in the book of Isaiah, chapter 66, verse 2 declares, "To this one I will look, the humble and contrite in spirit, the one who trembles at my word." Do you see it now? Chosen one, the trembling of the humble stirs heaven more than the shouting of the proud. Your quiet obedience became a fragrance that reached the throne room of God. Angels carried the aroma of your surrender before the Ancient of Days, and he smiled. For in a world that rewards rebellion, you chose reverence. In a generation that glorifies noise, you honored the sacred power of silence. You thought you were losing, but you were winning unseen wars. The enemy tried to provoke you, to make you break your silence, to lure you into fleshly reaction, but you held your peace. And that peace became a sword in God's hand. Heaven moved when you didn't. Hell shook when you stayed still. Every time you resisted the urge to fight your own way, the Lord himself fought for you. Beloved, understand this: obedience is not glamorous, but it is glorious. It rarely feels victorious, yet it always births victory. Your obedience today is writing history tomorrow. There are generations yet unborn who will walk in freedom because you obeyed when no one clapped. You are the hinge on which destinies turn. The silent warrior who shifts realms not by shouting, but by surrendering. Do not despise the quiet seasons. That silence is not punishment, it is preparation. God hides his greatest warriors in moments where the world forgets them. In those hidden places, strength is forged, faith is refined, and power is multiplied. You are one of them, the remnant that bends the knee instead of raising the sword. So take courage, chosen one. Heaven has not forgotten you. Your obedience has been seen, and its echo will continue long after you are gone. Your life has become a declaration that the humble still move mountains. that faith still silences storms, and that surrender still wins wars. Now, if this message finds you and something in your spirit stirs, don't scroll past it. This is divine timing, not coincidence. If you can feel heaven pressing pause on everything around you, it's because the King is marking you again. Your quiet obedience was not wasted, it was recorded. Let this be your act of agreement with heaven. Take a moment to like, share, and comment, so this word reaches another chosen one, still doubting their silent season. And if you have not yet done so, subscribe, because what comes next is not random inspiration. It is divine instruction for those ready to carry the weight of glory. And now, seal it prophetically. Type the number 777 inches the comments as a sign that you recognize the divine completion that comes through obedience. Heaven has already begun to move. You did not know that when you bowed in that quiet moment, heaven turned its gaze fully upon you. The very atmosphere of eternity shifted, and unseen watchers took notice. Angels paused mid-flight, their wings suspended in radiant silence, because one heart on earth had chosen reverence over rebellion. The throne of heaven leaned closer. You thought you were just enduring pain, holding your tongue, or forgiving what others could not. But in that moment, something sacred happened. Heaven's attention turned. When you chose to trust God's voice instead of your emotions, you aligned yourself with the rhythm of heaven. Every act of hidden faith draws divine focus. The Lord does not overlook the unseen. He sees the trembling of your heart, the quiet tears, the prayers you whisper when no one is listening. While the world celebrates noise, heaven celebrates nearness. The closer you draw to His will, the brighter your name glows in His presence. There are angels assigned to witness obedience. They mark moments of surrender. They watch the bending of knees, and they record the sound of your yes. Not a single sigh escapes unnoticed. When you held your peace instead of defending yourself, the heavens applauded. When you obeyed without understanding why, eternity recorded that choice as worship. You may think obedience goes unseen, but in heaven, it is broadcast like thunder. Heaven's attention is not drawn by perfection, but by posture. The proud demand attention, but the humble receive it from God Himself. When you lowered your voice and lifted your heart, you came into divine alignment with the rhythm of creation. Every humble act creates resonance with heaven. That is why the wind still obeys His word, and why the stars remain in their appointed paths, because creation recognizes the beauty of obedience. And now, heaven recognizes it in you. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 15. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and His ears are attentive to their cry always. Think about that for a moment. The eyes of the Lord, the Creator who formed galaxies, who measures oceans in His palm, fixes His gaze upon you. When others looked away, He looked closer. When others dismissed you, He took notice. You may have been unseen by the crowd, but you were never unseen by the King. His eyes follow your faithfulness like a shepherd follows the movement of his beloved sheep. His ears incline toward the faintest whisper of your prayers. Even when you feel ignored on earth, your voice still echoes in heaven. The moment you whisper, "Lord, I trust you," heaven's attention intensifies. Angels are dispatched. Pathways are cleared. What feels delayed in your life is often a divine orchestration, heaven rearranging events for your protection and purpose. There is a holy surveillance around you, not of control, but of care. The Lord is not watching to condemn you. He watches to cover you. Every battle, every burden, every decision, none of it escapes His sight. You have been walking through a season where silence has tested your spirit. You have asked, God, do you see me? And the heavens respond, yes. Child, I see you. I have seen every tear, every sleepless night, every sacrifice. The Father is not distant, He is deliberate. His watching is not passive, it is purposeful. When heaven turns its attention, things begin to move. The very laws of nature can bend under divine focus. What was locked begins to open. What was hidden begins to emerge. Sometimes, His gaze brings shaking, because what cannot stand under His holiness must fall away. When the Lord looks upon you, it is both mercy and fire. It refines, it reveals, it restores. So, when you feel the weight of isolation, remember, you are not alone. You are observed by love itself. His eyes are not watching for your failure, but for your faith. Every quiet step you take in obedience is magnified before the throne. It becomes light in dark places, fragrance in dry air, a song in the silence. Heaven sees, heaven listens, heaven responds. There is a reason the enemy tries to make you feel invisible, because recognition from heaven terrifies him. If you only knew how many times God intervened because He saw you wavering but still standing, you would weep with gratitude. You were seen when you stayed, when you forgave, when you kept praying though the answers delayed. The eyes of the Lord are upon you, not for punishment, but for preservation. When heaven looks upon a soul in surrender, every opposing power trembles, for God's gaze carries authority. One look from Him can scatter legions, heal memories, and unlock generations of promise. You carry that gaze now. It rests upon you as both comfort and calling. Chosen one, lift your head again. Do not let weariness convince you that heaven has forgotten. You are under divine observation, not as a prisoner, but as a beloved child under royal care. The same eyes that watched over David in the wilderness now watch over you in your waiting. The same ears that heard Hannah's trembling prayer now hear your unspoken cry. So walk with confidence, not arrogance, but holy assurance. Heaven's attention is your greatest protection. You don't need to fight for recognition when God Himself is mindful of you. When His eyes are upon you, every step you take becomes guided, guarded, and graced. You are not just seen, you are favored. And that favor, chosen one, is already rewriting your story. You never saw the battle, yet it surrounded you while you slept, cried, and wondered why everything felt so heavy. Legions of light clashed with forces of darkness over your destiny. The air itself seemed thick with resistance because something sacred was happening beneath the surface. You thought you were enduring random chaos, but no, every pressure, every delay, every whisper of doubt was part of a greater war. There are battles fought in silence, battles your eyes cannot see, but your spirit can feel. The tension you sense in your chest, the sudden waves of exhaustion, the temptation to quit it is all evidence of spiritual warfare. Darkness does not attack what does not threaten it. You have become a threat to the enemy because you carry something eternal. When you obeyed, a gate opened in heaven, and hell scrambled to close it. The spiritual world is not a distant myth, it is the reality beneath reality. The unseen realms respond to every word you speak, every choice you make. That is why your obedience carries such weight. Every time you choose peace over anger, forgiveness over bitterness, prayer over panic, you strengthen heaven's side of the battle. Your silence became a weapon, your humility became armor, and your endurance became a banner that terrified the adversary. As was spoken in the Apostles' letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world." There is no coincidence in the warfare you face. Some of your greatest hardships began the moment you decided to follow the call of God seriously. That is because the enemy saw what you were about to become. He saw the fire you would carry, the people you would set free, the light that would shine through your life, and he tried to stop it before it began. But every weapon formed against you has failed. Every plan crafted in darkness has been overturned by the authority of heaven. You are not losing, you are being refined. Every struggle is a training ground for dominion. God is teaching your hands to war in the Spirit, not with bitterness, but with belief. The battle is not a punishment, it is preparation. You have been trusted with conflict because you have been chosen for conquest. There were moments you asked, "Why does it feel like everything is against me?" The truth is, everything was until heaven intervened. When you knelt and whispered, "Lord, I still trust you," an explosion of light erupted in the unseen. Angels advanced. Chains shattered. Assignments from hell were cancelled. That's what your faith does. It turns prayer into power, obedience into warfare, and silence into thunder. Do not be deceived by how ordinary your life looks on the outside. In the spirit realm, your name is known. You are marked. When you pray, hell trembles. When you forgive, the atmosphere shifts. When you love your enemies, the enemy loses his ground entirely. The devil cannot comprehend how you keep standing after all that has been thrown at you, but heaven knows it is grace. Some of you have wondered why you often feel battles around your mind, your peace, your relationships. It's because the enemy fears your clarity. If he can distract you, he can delay you, but he cannot destroy you, for your life is anchored in divine purpose. The Lord has placed a hedge of fire around you, and that fire does not flicker, it burns with the authority of Christ himself. So, when storms come, do not panic. Recognize them for what they are, a reaction to your rising. When you walk in obedience, opposition follows, not as punishment, but as proof that you're advancing the kingdom. You are walking through a battlefield disguised as a normal life. Every choice for righteousness shakes principalities. Every time you worship through tears, another chain falls somewhere unseen. Beloved, take courage. The battle you cannot see is already being won. Heaven has not left you to fight alone. Angels surround your steps. The Spirit strengthens your resolve, and your quiet endurance is echoing across eternity. You are not the victim of war, you are the weapon of God. Now, as you feel this truth sinking in, seal it with faith. In the comments, write, "I stand firm," not as a ritual, but as an act of defiance against every lie that said you were finished. When you type those words, You are making a public declaration in the spirit realm that no matter what comes, you will not retreat. I stand firm is not weakness, it is warfare. It means you recognize the invisible fight and still choose to believe. It means you know that even though you cannot see the victory yet, you are already part of it. Because in this unseen battle, obedience is your weapon, faith is your shield, and endurance is your crown. Stand firm, chosen one, the war is real, but so is your authority. You did not realize that your silence thundered louder than 1,000 shouts. In a world obsessed with proving a point, you chose to hold your peace, and that peace became a weapon more powerful than words. When you refused to retaliate, when you chose restraint instead of revenge, heaven heard it as a roar. That quiet moment was not weakness, it was divine discipline. Silence, in the hands of a chosen one, becomes a language heaven understands. Your silence unsettled the enemy because he expected reaction. He wanted chaos. He wanted your words to build walls of bitterness, to create openings he could exploit. But you stayed still. You let the Spirit speak for you. And in that stillness, something extraordinary occurred. The noise of accusation in the spirit realm was silenced. The enemy lost his voice the moment you refused to use yours in anger. When you kept your mouth shut, you placed your trust in the Lord's justice instead of your own. That trust sent shockwaves through the unseen realms. It was as if you stepped back and allowed the commander of heaven's armies to take his rightful position in your defense. The heavens recorded it, not the absence of speech, but the presence of faith. You were not being passive, you were standing in spiritual authority. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus. Chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still. That verse was not written for comfort alone, it was written as strategy. Stillness is not the same as inaction. It is the deliberate surrender of control. It is the moment you say, God, I won't defend myself. I'll let you display your power. And that's when he moves most mightily. When you step aside, the Creator steps in. Your silence is not empty, it is charged with presence. The same God who split the Red Sea moves in your stillness. When you refuse to engage in battles of ego, when you refrain from proving your worth to those who never saw it, heaven fights for you. The Lord's justice may be silent for a time, but it is never absent. Every wrong word spoken against you is heard. Every false accusation recorded. The one who sees all is also the one who vindicates completely. The truth is, silence terrifies darkness. Demons feed on reaction, on noise, on chaos. When you do not respond, they have nothing to consume. They lose their hold. Silence breaks cycles that argument sustains. It ends wars that words prolong. There is a holy authority in the heart that can stay calm while storms rage. That authority does not come from pride, it comes from peace. The world taught you that speaking out is strength. Heaven teaches that knowing when to stay quiet is mastery. There are moments when your silence preaches louder than sermons. It says, I trust the timing of God. It declares, my worth is not up for debate. It announces, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, because I will not lend my voice to its power. The enemy fears the believer who knows when to stop speaking, because silence kills gossip, disarms offense, and humbles pride. You have learned what few ever do, that peace is not weakness. It's wisdom. The strength of the lion is not in his roar, but in the control behind it. You have learned to roar inwardly, in prayer, where it matters most. And look at what that stillness has accomplished. The spiritual noise around your name has quieted. The accusations once shouted in the heavens are now muted. The angels guarding your path have resumed their song. For the warfare over your reputation has been settled by your restraint. Every time you stayed silent when provoked, you allowed heaven to speak louder. That silence is building something eternal. It is writing a testimony that will outlive the arguments. Your peace is preaching to generations after you that it is possible to win without shouting, to conquer without conflict, to reign without retaliation. The greatest victories are not the ones seen by men, but the ones recognized by heaven. Chosen one. Keep holding your peace. When people misunderstand you, stay anchored in your calling. When they twist your words, refuse to answer back. When you are tempted to prove yourself, remember God has already chosen you. Let your silence be your signature, your proof of divine confidence. The louder the world becomes, the quieter you remain. And in that quiet, heaven moves mountains. The Lord himself has taken your case. He is both your defender and your deliverer. The very battles you surrendered will become the testimonies that crown your name. What the enemy meant as a trap became your training ground. You have learned to fight with silence, and that is a rare power indeed. So breathe deeply. Beloved, rest your heart. The one who called you to silence is now speaking on your behalf. Soon, those who doubted will witness the hand of God vindicate you publicly. But until that moment, stay still. The storm is already bowing to your obedience. Heaven has record keepers, chosen one scribes of fire who write not on paper but on light. Every act of quiet obedience, every secret surrender, every tear you offered in silence has been recorded. Nothing has been forgotten. There is a sacred scroll with your name written upon it, a testimony of your endurance that even angels read with reverence. While others only saw your waiting, heaven saw your worship. You did not need a stage for your faith to be seen. The unseen world has already witnessed it. The hidden moments, the forgiveness you gave without being asked, the prayer whispered through exhaustion, the kindness you showed when none was returned, those moments have become ink upon eternal pages. In heaven's archives, they shimmer. Your obedience has been memorialized before the throne. Heaven operates by divine record. Just as kings once kept chronicles of the faithful, the Almighty keeps record of the righteous. The universe itself bears witness to every act of love you have done in His name. You may have thought, no one noticed, but the Spirit whispered, I did. For not a single act of faithfulness escapes divine sight. The ancient text confirms this reality. It is written in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 16. A scroll of remembrance was written in His presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored His name. There are moments when you may feel unseen, when obedience feels unrewarded, yet heaven is not silent, it is simply still, recording every motion of faith. Each time you refuse to compromise, the ink of eternity moves. Each time you say, Thy will be done, a new line appears. Every act of obedience adds weight to your heavenly account. The kingdom operates through remembrance. What you sow in secret will be honored in glory. And here's a mystery. Beloved, sometimes the reward of heaven does not arrive as applause, but as peace. The scroll of remembrance is not about recognition, it is about relationship. It exists to testify that you loved him when it wasn't easy, that you trusted when there was no proof. The King himself looks upon it, smiling, for your story has become a fragrance before his throne. You have been walking through seasons that felt invisible, where effort met silence and prayers seemed unanswered. But hear this, the silence was never absence. It was documentation. Heaven was writing. Every time you persevered through pain, another sentence formed. Every time you forgave, a new paragraph began. Heaven's record is longer than your disappointment. When God remembers, he moves. There will come a moment when the scroll of remembrance concerning you will be opened. Favor will rise. Delay will break. What you planted in tears will bloom in abundance. Not because you demanded it, but because faithfulness always bears fruit in its appointed season. And while heaven writes, hell trembles. The enemy has no record of righteousness, only accusations. But the blood of Jesus erased those pages long ago. Now, every word written of you in heaven is covered in grace and sealed with love. You are not defined by your failures. You are remembered for your faith. Beloved chosen one, if these words stir something within you, if they remind you that heaven has not overlooked your journey, then take a moment. Not out of ritual, but out of gratitude. Share this message as an act of agreement with heaven's record. When you share, you are saying, let another chosen one know they are seen. When you like and comment, you are building a visible testimony of unseen faith. And if you have not subscribed yet, do so not for me, but so that you remain connected to this stream of divine reminders meant to strengthen your walk. This isn't about numbers, it's about nourishment. It's about staying aligned with the words that keep your spirit awake and your focus sharp. Because this world will try to distract you. It will try to drown the sound of heaven's writing with the noise of temporary applause. But you, beloved, you are not called to chase attention, you are called to carry remembrance. Heaven's pen never runs dry. Your obedience is still being written. One day, the Lord himself will read from that scroll. He will call your name, and the heavens will echo with joy. The angels will bear witness as he declares, this one feared me, honored me, and remained faithful. And in that moment, every quiet yes, every hidden act of devotion, every secret sacrifice will shine brighter than any crown earned through striving. So, let your heart rest. You are recorded in light, remembered by heaven, and beloved by God. Keep obeying, even when unseen, because the one who writes your story never forgets a single word. Something shifted when you obeyed. Chosen one, you may not have felt it in the natural, but in the spirit realm, everything changed. The air grew heavy with glory, and the boundaries that once held you began to break. Your obedience was not small, it was seismic. It released a wave of divine authority that traveled through unseen realms, rearranging alignments, rewriting decrees, and commanding heaven's forces into motion. When you said yes to God's instruction, even the quiet ones that made no sense, you invited heaven's architecture to redesign your surroundings. The angels stationed over your life received new orders. The atmosphere around your home, your work, even your mind began to realign. The shift was invisible, but its consequences are inevitable. The world often calls obedience limitation, but heaven calls it dominion. What others saw as restriction, God saw as release. You became the doorway through which his authority entered a region that had forgotten his voice. That's why things started to feel unsettled the moment you obeyed. The kingdom of darkness felt the tremor. Hell panics when light begins to move through obedience. The apostle reminds us in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 4, "The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds." You have become a conduit of divine order. Your decisions in secret are shaping realities in the open. What once seemed impossible now stands at the edge of manifestation, waiting for your next yes. Obedience is not a single moment, it is a current that keeps flowing, carrying heaven's agenda into the earth. When you obeyed quietly, it wasn't just about your own breakthrough, it was about alignment for others connected to you. God used your surrender to lift the weight from generations, to cleanse bloodlines, to cancel curses that had lingered for centuries. You thought it was personal, but it was prophetic. The shift you initiated has reached farther than you can imagine. Even creation responds when a chosen one obeys. The ground itself recognizes the steps of those who walk in divine order. The elements listen to voices aligned with heaven. That's why peace has begun to follow you. It's not random. It's recognition. Nature knows who carries authority. The atmosphere bends to those who bear his will. And yet, obedience often costs. It asks for what feels like everything. It isolates you, humbles you, tests you. But hear this, obedience is not loss, it is investment. Every sacrifice you made has become seed in the soil of eternity. And that soil never forgets. The harvest may not arrive all at once, but it will come. When it does, it will overflow beyond your reach, touching lives you've never met. This shift in the atmosphere is the sound of heaven rewarding your alignment. Old cycles are breaking. Closed doors are unlocking. The fog that once clouded your vision is lifting. It is not coincidence, it is consequence. Every prayer you whispered, every temptation you resisted, every step you took in faith, it all carried weight. You may still see nothing changing, but look closer. The resistance you feel now is not opposition, it's confirmation. It means the structure of the unseen is still rearranging around your obedience. The enemy fights hardest where he's already losing ground. So, when the pressure rises, don't back away. It means you're standing in the center of the shift. Heaven is reordering your world. Chosen one. God is not just blessing you, he is trusting you with authority. He's teaching you to steward the shift, to walk in awareness that your obedience can change an entire atmosphere. That's why you must keep walking carefully. Keep listening closely. What you carry now affects everything around you. And as this message reaches your spirit, take this moment to mark what heaven has already begun. In the comments, type 444. That number is a prophetic sign of divine order and stability. It represents the establishment of heavenly structure on earth, the confirmation that what God has started in the unseen will soon manifest in the seen. When you type it, you are not engaging superstition, you are agreeing with heaven's blueprint. You are saying, Lord, let the shift continue through me. You are acknowledging that obedience has made you an agent of divine order. Heaven is watching. Earth is responding, and your obedience is still echoing across realms. The atmosphere has changed, and so have you. There was a moment, chosen one, when darkness itself confessed that it could not break you. It did not speak through words, but through retreat. When temptation failed to sway you, when despair could not drown you, and when fear lost its grip, hell fell silent. Your quiet endurance became its undoing. The very forces that once mocked your faith began to tremble before it. You did not hear the conversation in the unseen realms, but it happened. In the same way the accuser once stood before God to question Job's loyalty. The enemy questioned yours. He said you would quit when the fire came, that your faith was shallow, that your obedience would fade under pressure. But heaven knew better. And when you chose surrender over rebellion, the enemy had nothing left to say. Your perseverance shut his mouth. The realm of darkness operates through accusation. It feeds on pride, anger, and resistance. It tries to provoke you into matching its tone. But when you respond with humility, with stillness, with a whispered "Lord, I trust you," it becomes powerless. The enemy cannot fight what he does not understand. He cannot comprehend obedience that costs everything but still rejoices. He cannot interpret peace that doesn't make sense. That is why your surrender became a confession from the darkness. Every time you forgave when wounded, every time you worshipped when weary, every time you remained faithful when forgotten the powers of darkness acknowledged defeat, you became a living contradiction to their rebellion. Your obedience exposed their weakness. The Apostle James once wrote in his letter to the scattered believers of old, and his words still burn with power today in the book of James. Chapter 4, verse 7, "Submit yourselves, then, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." Notice the order of that truth: submission before resistance. Many try to fight darkness by force, but heaven's strategy begins with surrender. It is not your might that drives the devil away. It is your submission to divine authority. You do not defeat darkness by shouting louder, but by bowing deeper. You, chosen one, have learned the secret of spiritual strength. You have discovered that real power is not found in retaliation, but in restraint. Your refusal to mirror the enemy's chaos is what disarms him. When he attacks and you remain still, he loses territory. When he whispers lies and you respond with worship, he loses access. When he tempts you with shortcuts and you choose integrity, he loses confidence. Hell once boasted that you would crumble, but heaven now boasts that you endured. You are a walking contradiction to the enemy's agenda. Your life has become a sermon preached to unseen forces, declaring that surrender is stronger than rebellion, that humility conquers pride, and that light does not need to shout to overcome darkness, it simply shines. There was a night when the enemy planned to break your mind. He sent waves of confusion, fear, and loneliness. Yet, in that dark hour, you whispered one phrase: "I still believe." That whisper pierced the clouds. It became thunder in the spirit realm. Demons fled from the sound of your faith. They confessed their defeat, not through words, but through retreat. The victory you carry now is not loud, but it is absolute. Heaven has seen it. The enemy has acknowledged it. You have shifted from being attacked to being feared. You may not feel powerful, but you have become untouchable, not because of who you are, but because of whom you obey. Understand this: when you surrender, you come under divine jurisdiction. The enemy cannot trespass where God reigns. Your obedience has drawn a boundary that darkness cannot cross. Every time you kneel in prayer, you reinforce that border. Every time you choose forgiveness, you extend it further. Your surrender builds fortresses stronger than steel. You may still feel the residue of the war, the fatigue, the memories, the scars, but those are not signs of defeat. They are evidence that you fought and won. The enemy's voice has been silenced because your life now speaks louder than his accusations. Your endurance has testified in heaven's courts. The verdict has already been declared redeemed, protected, victorious. And though you may not see it yet, this confession from darkness marks a shift in seasons. You have entered a place of authority. Your prayers will carry new weight. Your words will hold new power. You will begin to sense the spiritual atmosphere respond more quickly. Not because you strive harder, but because you stand taller. The demons that once mocked you now whisper warnings to one another. Do not approach that one, they belong to the Lord. That is what your obedience has accomplished. It has written your name in the unseen as one who cannot be moved. So walk in quiet confidence. You no longer need to prove your strength. The fact that you are still here is proof enough. Every step you take now echoes with victory. The one who once fought to survive now walks as a conqueror. And the realm of darkness knows it. There are words you spoke once that heaven still echoes, not because of their volume, but because of their purity. It wasn't in a pulpit, not behind a microphone. It was whispered in the middle of surrender. Yes, Lord. That phrase, so simple, so quiet, shook the corridors of eternity. It traveled beyond the veil of the seen world and thundered in places where angels gather and principalities fall. Your obedience was not a whisper lost to the wind. It became an eternal resonance in heaven's halls. The moment you said yes, everything changed. You may not have noticed, but the atmosphere around you began to respond. The same way light bends when it meets glass, time itself began to bend around your obedience. That yes became the sound that heaven recognized as alignment. When a chosen one agrees with the will of God, that sound becomes the key that unlocks new realms. You were not aware, but your yes was not solitary. It harmonized with countless others across generations. Every prophet who answered the call, every intercessor who prayed through tears, every faithful one who refused to quit all their voices blend into one divine chord of obedience. And your whisper joined that melody. You became part of heaven's ongoing song. There is music in your surrender. Heaven measures faith not by noise, but by resonance. Your yes had a certain frequency, one that darkness cannot replicate. It was a vibration born of purity and sacrifice. That's why demons tremble when you obey. Your sound reminds them of their defeat. It carries the same tone that echoed when Jesus said, "It is finished." As the prophet once wrote in the ancient scrolls of 1 Samuel, chapter 15, verse 22, "To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams." Those words were not meant for priests alone. They were meant for hearts like yours, hearts that understand that true worship is found not in what you give, but in what you yield. Heaven does not weigh offerings by size, but by surrender. When you said yes, you offered something greater than gold, your will. And that is the one offering that all of heaven honors above any other. Your obedience has become a memorial sound in the realm of spirit. Angels recognize it. When you pray, the atmosphere shifts more easily now because heaven remembers that tone. There's a certain authority that follows those who have said yes and meant it. Your voice now carries weight because your heart carries truth. That whisper was also heard by creation itself. The very ground beneath your feet responded, aligning with divine rhythm. Mountains don't always move through shouting, they move through surrender. When your will bows, the earth yields. When your soul says yes, everything created remembers who its true master is. Think of what that means. Beloved, you are a living instrument of alignment. Heaven speaks. You agree. And the world changes. Every yes builds bridges between realms, allowing grace to flow into dark places. That is why the enemy fights your obedience, because it reverberates far beyond your own life. There were moments when you felt your yes cost too much, when obedience stripped away comfort, certainty, or companionship. Yet those very losses became echoes too deep, resonant tones that added depth to your song. Heaven doesn't erase the sound of pain, it transforms it. Your tears harmonized with your yes, turning sorrow into symphony. And that sound, chosen one, does not fade. It travels. It stirs others awake. Somewhere, right now, someone feels strengthened without knowing why it is, because your obedience is still singing. Your yes is echoing in their spirit, giving them courage to say the same. Do not underestimate what you carry. You are not simply enduring, you are resonating. The purity of your surrender has created waves that reach far beyond your timeline. When heaven listens, it hears you alongside Abraham's faith, Mary's consent, Daniel's loyalty, and Paul's endurance. You are part of that lineage now, the lineage of those whose obedience still speaks. The world may never know the cost of your yes, but eternity does. Heaven keeps records not only of deeds but of sounds, and your whisper, that quiet agreement in the dark, has become one of its most treasured melodies. Every time you choose faith again, every time you reaffirm your surrender, that sound grows richer, deeper, stronger. So when you feel forgotten, remember this: heaven still hears you. Your voice has not gone silent. It is echoing across eternity, blending with the chorus of the faithful. Even now, the halls of heaven resound with your yes, and its echo will not cease until every promise spoken over your life is fulfilled. Your surrender became sound, your sound became power, and your power became witness. The whisper that began in your pain will end in praise, because in heaven's ears, obedience is never quiet. It is thunder wearing the disguise of peace. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the pressure becomes almost unbearable. The walls seem to close in. Prayers echo without reply, and silence stretches longer than strength. You stand there, wondering if your obedience has been in vain. Yet, what you call breaking, heaven calls birthing. You have reached the point where faith stops being theory and becomes power. The enemy thought your silence was weakness, but it was preparation. He mistook your weariness for defeat, not realizing that endurance refines authority. Every time you refused to give up, something in the spirit realm cracked open. It didn't break you, it broke barriers. And now, you stand at the breaking point, not of despair, but of destiny. You must understand, beloved, before manifestation, there is always pressure. Even diamonds are formed under it. God allows the tension not to crush you, but to crown you. You are being compressed by divine hands so that what emerges carries His likeness, not your limitation. You are not losing control. You are being shaped for glory. It was the same for every great one who came before you. Joseph felt it in the prison. Esther felt it before the throne. Jesus felt it in Gethsemane. And each of them discovered that the breaking point was actually the doorway to break through. You are walking that same path, the narrow road where surrender turns into strength. The ancient letter to the Galatians still speaks of this mystery in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not give up. Those words are not gentle encouragement, they are divine revelation. If we do not give up, that is the condition upon which harvest rests. Heaven is not testing your performance, it is proving your perseverance. The reward was never in the speed of your progress, but in the steadfastness of your faith. There is a rhythm to your waiting. Heaven is aligning circumstances you cannot yet see. The pain you feel is not punishment, it is pressure that forms precision. God is tightening your focus, sharpening your discernment, and deepening your roots. What is coming requires more than enthusiasm, it requires endurance. You have felt abandoned. Yes, but the truth is you are being entrusted. Only those who survive the silence can be trusted with the sound of new seasons. God is not late, He is deliberate. The delay you perceive is actually protection. Had you received too soon what you were praying for, it would have broken you. Now, after endurance, you are strong enough to carry it. Your breaking point is not the end of your story, it's the moment heaven begins to rewrite it. While you thought everything was collapsing, the foundations beneath you were being reinforced. The shaking was not meant to destroy you, but to remove what could not stand. What remains is pure, unshakable faith. There are angels standing at attention right now, waiting for your persistence to reach full maturity. You do not need to strive harder, you simply need to stay. Staying is strength. Perseverance is the proof that you belong to heaven's remnant. The victory is already written. Endurance is the bridge that gets you there. So, when the weight feels unbearable, whisper this truth to yourself. I am not breaking down, I am breaking through. Let that become your prayer, your breath, your anchor. Because heaven does not measure time like earth does. Due season does not mean soon, it means certain. Your harvest is certain. And in this moment, as your spirit feels both exhausted and expectant, I want you to participate in what heaven is doing. Comment below the words, I won't quit. Let that declaration rise, not as a social gesture, but as spiritual warfare. When you write it, you are doing more than typing, you are testifying. You are agreeing with heaven that no pressure will silence your promise. Say it and mean it, I won't quit. Because every time those words leave your lips or fingers, they reverberate in the unseen world. Angels hear them as commands to continue their assignments. Demons hear them as warnings of their defeat. Your declaration becomes a sword. You have reached the turning point. The same place that tried to break you will become the ground where your miracle sprouts. The tears that watered your faith are about to reveal their fruit. Stay steady. Beloved, the wind may rage, but your roots are deep now. The season is shifting, so lift your head, breathe again. The breaking point has already become the birthing point. Your perseverance is not going unnoticed. Heaven is preparing your public reward. You will look back and realize that the pressure that almost crushed you was the very thing that crowned you. You are still standing, and that means the enemy has already lost. Heaven celebrates differently than the world does. Down here, people clap when they see visible success. But in heaven, the applause begins when you obey, especially when no one is watching. You thought nothing happened when you stayed faithful. But the truth is, heaven erupted in joy. The moment you chose the narrow path instead of the easy one, trumpets sounded. The day you forgave without apology. Banners were lifted. When you chose to trust God through tears, your name was proclaimed among the faithful. You didn't hear the sound, but all of heaven did. Your obedience triggered a celebration. The same way angels rejoice when one soul turns toward God. They also rejoice when a chosen one remains steadfast through trials. Every act of loyalty, every quiet decision to stay aligned with the Lord's will, is treated like victory in heaven's court. You have been celebrated more than you realize. The Lord is not a distant observer, He is a rejoicing Father. He delights in your endurance. He smiles over your journey, not because it was easy, but because it was true. While others judged your process, heaven saw your perseverance. You have become heaven's evidence that grace can hold a person through storms, as was spoken by Jesus himself in the sacred record of Luke. Chapter 15, verse 10. There is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who truly repents. That joy does not end at salvation. It continues through transformation. Every time you realign, every time you turn your heart back toward Him, the same joy fills heaven again. Angels are not spectators, they are participants in your story. They dance at every step of restoration, sing at every act of obedience, and guard you in every moment of surrender. Heaven's celebration is not loud for the sake of noise, it is holy acknowledgement. When the King sees his child reflect his nature, creation itself responds. The stars sparkle brighter, the winds shift, the earth sighs with relief, because righteousness has once again touched the ground. Your obedience has ripples that creation feels. Think about this while you felt forgotten. Your name was being sung in heaven. While you were wondering if you mattered, heaven was rejoicing because you chose right when wrong was easier. You are not overlooked, you are celebrated in places that never forget. You have walked through fire and remained faithful. You have been tested in silence and still chosen love. And now, heaven calls you victorious. The Lord Himself has declared over your life, "Well done, my faithful servant." That affirmation may not have reached your ears yet, but it has already been spoken in the eternal realm. Heaven celebrates obedience because it mirrors the Son. Jesus walked the path of suffering before He received the crown. You walk the same pattern: obedience before honor, surrender before celebration. And now, beloved, you stand on the edge of visible reward. The joy that heaven has known is about to touch earth through you. There will be moments when divine favor begins to manifest publicly. Doors open, relationships align, blessings flow effortlessly, and you will realize, this is the echo of heaven's applause. You won in secret, and now heaven is letting the world witness the victory. And if these words reach you today, it is not by coincidence. It is a gentle reminder from the Father that He has not overlooked a single act of faith. You may have felt weary, unseen, or delayed, but heaven's celebration never paused. The angels still sing your name in the halls of grace. The record of your obedience still glows upon the scrolls of remembrance. So take a moment, not as ritual, but as response to let that truth sink in. Heaven's joy over you is real. It's not poetic, it's literal. The Creator of the universe delights in your yes. If this message stirred your heart, if something inside you whispered, "That's me. That's my story," then pause and breathe. You are not just hearing words, you are being reminded of your worth. And if you sense the presence of God as you read, take a small, sacred action in return, like this message, not for algorithm, but for agreement. Share it, not for exposure, but to extend heaven's joy to another weary soul. And if you haven't yet subscribed, do so not for routine, but to remain connected to this stream of divine remembrance that keeps your fire alive. Because this is more than content, it's communion. These words are meant to realign you, to refresh your faith, to remind you that heaven is aware. Heaven's celebration never ends, it only expands. Every new act of obedience adds another note to the song that bears your name. You are the melody of God's mercy, the rhythm of His redemption, and the proof that grace still works. So lift your head, beloved. Heaven rejoices over you still. Let that joy become your strength as you step into what's next. The same God who sang over you in secret is about to honor you in the open. Somewhere in heaven, there is a throne with your name engraved upon it. It was not carved in a moment of triumph, but in the moment you chose to obey. Every quiet yes, every hidden act of surrender, every battle fought in silence added another stroke to its design. You were never walking aimlessly. Every step of obedience was leading you toward that throne. The crowns of heaven are not given for talent or influence, they are forged through obedience. Every trial you endured was part of the crafting. Every moment of humility, every tear shed for righteousness, every choice to forgive instead of retaliate added another jewel to that crown. The unseen hands of heaven have been working on it, shaping it according to the measure of your endurance. This is the paradox of the kingdom. Those who bow lowest on earth are seated highest in eternity. You are being trained not for survival, but for sovereignty. God has been teaching you how to carry weight, spiritual weight, eternal authority. The very pain that once made you question His plan has been preparing you to reign with Him. We are reminded through the writings of Paul in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "There is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord will award to all who have loved His appearing." That promise is not reserved for apostles or prophets alone. It is for every soul that stayed faithful when it would have been easier to walk away. You are among them. The crown awaiting you is not ornamental, it is evidence. It testifies to the fact that you endured, that you believed, that you remained loyal when everything else failed. Do not mistake obscurity for insignificance. The Lord hides His kings before He reveals them. Every hidden season you've endured has been a rehearsal for rulership. The discipline of silence, the art of waiting, the courage of consistency. These are royal lessons taught in secret places. You were not being ignored, you were being prepared. The throne with your name on it does not wait for perfection, it waits for completion. When your training in obedience reaches its fullness, the seat is revealed. You will not sit on it to boast, but to intercede. True crowns are worn by servants who learn to love deeper, forgive faster, and trust longer. Your authority is not a reward, it's a responsibility. Heaven crowns those it can trust to represent the King's nature, and God has watched you grow into that trust. You have learned to carry weight without pride, to move with power without performance, to lead without losing compassion. That is why your crown shines brighter than you realize. It reflects His character, not just your victories. Sometimes you wonder why you've walked through so much loss. But those who wear crowns of righteousness often pass through the fires of refinement. The gold must be melted before it is molded. The jewels must be cut before they shine. You have been refined not to be destroyed, but to be displayed. The enemy tried to convince you that you were forgotten, but even he knows that heaven does not invest this much fire into anyone it plans to abandon. You are not being burned, you are being built. The weight of the crown requires strength, and that strength comes only through surrender. There will come a day when the unseen crown will become visible. The world will finally see what heaven already knew, that you were royalty long before anyone recognized it. But until then, you are called to wear your invisible crown with quiet dignity. Walk through the noise of this world with calm assurance that you already belong to a higher kingdom. You have learned what many never will, that obedience is the path to glory, not applause. You are not chasing recognition, you are carrying revelation. The authority you hold is not borrowed, it has been entrusted. And those who carry divine authority never need to announce it. They simply move, and creation responds. Your life has become a throne room in motion. Everywhere you walk, the atmosphere shifts. Peace follows you, not because you seek it, but because you host it. The light that once flickered in your heart now burns with stability. You are no longer surviving the fire, you are radiating from within it. One day, the Lord Himself will place that crown upon your head, not because you were perfect, but because you were faithful. And when He does, you will realize that every sacrifice was worth it. Every silent battle, every sleepless night, every tear, it all became gold in His hands. So hold your head high, chosen one, not in pride, but in purpose. You are a ruler in training, a vessel of divine authority, a living testament that obedience always leads to coronation. The crown may be invisible now, but heaven already sees it gleaming. What if I told you, chosen one, that your obedience has already reached beyond your lifetime, that every yes you've given, God is echoing through generations you will never meet? You think of obedience as personal, but heaven calls it generational. Your faithfulness has become a seed planted in the soil of time, and long after you are gone, it will bloom in the lives of others. The world teaches people to chase legacy through achievement, but heaven measures legacy through alignment. Every time you obey, you write a new chapter in your family's spiritual DNA. You are the interruption in cycles that destroyed those before you. You are the beginning of a new story. The battles you fought in secret were not just about your peace, they were about your bloodline's future. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 9. He keeps His covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love Him and keep His commandments. That promise is not poetry, it's law. It means that your obedience today builds protection for generations tomorrow. Every prayer you prayed, every sin you refused, Every temptation you overcame became a shield for those who will come after you. You are rewriting destinies by staying faithful in moments no one saw. The Lord looked at your bloodline and said, "It stops here. The chaos, the addiction, the anxiety, the cycles of poverty and pride, they end with you. You stood where others fell. And because of that, heaven has marked your lineage with favor. What your ancestors lost, your obedience is restoring. This is why the warfare felt so heavy. It was never just your battle. You were fighting for unborn generations. You were standing in the gap, canceling agreements made in ignorance, tearing down altars of darkness erected long before your birth. Every tear you shed was not wasted. It was intercession for those who will one day rise free because you refused to bow. Your children and their children will walk in peace they didn't earn because you paid the price in obedience. There will be laughter in homes that once knew only arguments. There will be clarity where there was confusion, blessing where there was barrenness, because you said yes when it hurt. You opened a gate of grace that will remain open long after you are gone. The ripple effect of obedience never ends, like a stone dropped into still water. Your surrender has created waves that continue to expand. You will not live to see the full distance your obedience travels, but heaven already has. Angels have traced the line of your faithfulness through time, and they stand amazed at what your single life is changing. You were never called to be comfortable. You were called to be consequential. The Lord chose you not because you were perfect, but because you were willing. Your obedience is a bridge between what was cursed and what will be blessed. You are the turning point in a story that had long been written in sorrow. Sometimes, the pressure of breaking generational patterns feels unbearable because you're carrying weight no one before you ever carried. But the fact that God trusted you with that responsibility is proof of His confidence in you. Heaven would not place generational restoration in weak hands. You were chosen precisely because you could carry it. The time is coming when you will begin to see signs of what your obedience has birthed. Unexpected favor, divine opportunities, doors opening for those connected to you. These will not be coincidences. They will be evidence. The covenant you renewed through obedience will now speak for you and for those who bear your name. Do not underestimate what one act of surrender can do. You are not simply changing your life, you are altering history. The spiritual record of your bloodline has been rewritten in mercy's ink. You are the living proof that God redeems family lines. And now, beloved, as a prophetic act of agreement, take a moment to seal what heaven has already declared. Type 555 inches, the comments below. That number represents divine grace, multiplied the number of redemption and favor expanding through generations. When you write it, you are not typing digits. You are testifying that what began with you will not end with you. You are agreeing with heaven's covenant of continuity. Your 555 is a declaration that your obedience will keep echoing. It is your way of saying, Lord, let this grace overflow to my family, my future, my generations. You are marking your agreement with the eternal promise that the blessings tied to your obedience cannot be reversed. Chosen one, you have done what few are willing to do. You have stood between the old and the new and chosen redemption. You are not the continuation of brokenness. You are the beginning of blessing. The future is safer because you listened. The unseen realm has already recorded it. A new lineage begins here. Generations will call you faithful, even if they never know your name. The sound of your obedience will echo through time, carrying light into places you will never walk, and hope into hearts you will never meet. That is legacy. That is victory. That is the power of a single, unwavering yes. You have walked through storms that were meant to destroy you, yet somehow they purified you instead. The fire that was designed to consume you refined you into something radiant. The losses that were supposed to end you became the very things that shaped your discernment. And now, the time has come for reversal, for the divine exchange, where judgment turns to mercy, where ashes turn to beauty, and where what was once a curse becomes confirmation of calling. The heavens have declared a reversal over your life. What once condemned you now speaks for you. The tears you shed in confusion have become the ink heaven uses to rewrite your story. You see, the God you serve never wastes pain. Every humiliation has been restructured into honor. Every rejection repurposed into redirection. You were not being abandoned, you were being aligned. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, still echo with unshakable truth, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. Not some things, all things. Every heartbreak, every delay, every door that closed, every misunderstanding, every lonely night, He is weaving them into something that will reveal His glory. You have not lost, you have been repositioned. Every attack against you carried within it the ingredients of your promotion. The enemy, in his arrogance, built the stage upon which God will now display His power. You have been walking through what felt like punishment, but in reality, it was purification. You thought you were being stripped, but you were being sanctified. What was taken was not meant for your destiny, and heaven refused to let you carry it into your next season. That relationship that broke, it was not rejection, it was redirection. That opportunity that slipped away, it was protection. That delay that broke your patience, it was divine timing at work. The reversal of judgment means this: what once counted against you is now working for you. The accusations have been silenced, the shame erased, the guilt redeemed. You are no longer defined by what you went through, you are defined by what came out of you during it. Faith came out, perseverance came out, worship came out. That's what heaven saw, and that's what heaven is rewarding. You are not who you were when the battle began. The storms refined you into someone who no longer reacts, but rules. You now walk with an authority born of affliction, a peace that cannot be provoked, a confidence that does not depend on applause. The enemy regrets ever touching your life, because the very trial he designed became the reason for your anointing. It's strange how divine reversals happen quietly. There's rarely a trumpet blast or a sudden flash. It happens subtly. Favor begins to follow you again. Doors reopen that you didn't even knock on, and people who dismissed you start seeking your wisdom. The same voices that once criticized you will one day confess, God was with you all along. This is the power of reversal vindication without vengeance. You will not have to prove yourself. God Himself will. There's a peace that comes after judgment is overturned, a stillness that says, it is finished. Heaven has already ruled in your favor. What once disqualified you has become the testimony of your transformation. The fire that once burned your hands is now lighting your path. The weapon that once wounded you has become the evidence of victory. Every time you said, God, I trust you, you shifted the outcome. Every prayer of surrender became a seed of reversal. Heaven watched your faith remain when logic fled. And for that reason, mercy stood up on your behalf. The gavel of grace has fallen. The case against you has been dismissed, not because you were flawless, but because you were faithful. It is hard to comprehend sometimes how much God can turn through one act of endurance. But this is his specialty: resurrection from ruins, beauty from brokenness, strength from surrender. He never leaves his chosen ones buried under false verdicts. He always reverses what was meant for harm. You will see this reversal manifest not just in your spirit, but in your surroundings. Situations that once brought anxiety will now bring peace. People who left will be replaced by those appointed. Delays will turn into divine acceleration. You are entering a season where everything that opposed you will now assist you. When heaven reverses a decree, it is final. No power in hell can appeal it. Your name has been cleared in the courts of eternity. What was stolen is being restored with interest. The very ground that bore your tears will soon produce fruit. This is not compensation, it is coronation. You, chosen one, are walking proof that judgment does not have the final word. Grace does. What was meant to bury you became the soil that grew your calling. What was meant to humiliate you became the proof of your holiness. You stand now not as a survivor, but as a signpost of divine mercy, a living testimony that God turns all things, even the ugliest, into glory. There is a fire upon you now. Chosen one, not a consuming fire, but a consecrating one. It burns without destroying. It purifies without punishing. It is the seal of heaven upon a life that has been surrendered in truth. You have walked through seasons of hidden preparation, endured tests that stripped you of pride and certainty. And now the time has come for the marking. Heaven is branding you with holy fire. Fire in the kingdom is never random. It is purpose-driven, identity-shaping, and destiny-activating. When the Spirit of God places his fire upon a person, it is not just for power, it is for purity. You are being set apart, not because you are better, but because you are ready. The same hands that held you through suffering are now igniting you for service. The same tears that washed your pain are now oiling the flame. As was declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 3, verse 11, he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. This is that fire. Chosen one, the fire that refines motives, burns away distraction, and exposes hidden strength. It is the same flame that once appeared as tongues over the heads of the disciples, the same presence that filled the upper room and birthed the church. That fire has not dimmed through the centuries. It simply searches for hearts willing to carry it. And now, it has found yours. You may not have realized it, but every season of breaking was preparation for this moment. Every disappointment carved space for more of his Spirit. Every delay was an altar being built inside you. Fire cannot rest where there is no altar. And now heaven sees one within you, stable, surrendered, unshakable. That is why you feel the stirring, the heat of something awakening within. You are being rekindled for divine purpose. The seal of fire is both a promise and a responsibility. It means your life is no longer ordinary. The words you speak will begin to carry weight. The peace you bring into rooms will disrupt darkness. You will feel a deeper awareness of his presence, sometimes heavy, sometimes gentle, always holy. The Spirit is no longer visiting, he is indwelling in fullness. This is what the anointing truly is, not a spotlight, but a surrender. It is not given to make you seen, but to make God known. You are being trusted with fire, not for display, but for transformation. Wherever you walk, things will change. You will speak words you didn't plan, and they will pierce hearts. You will lay hands on the broken, and healing will follow. You will walk into confusion, and peace will settle like a mantle. This is not imagination, it is inheritance. But understand, the fire also tests. It will search your heart, refine your thoughts, and confront anything that does not belong. It will not destroy you, but it will not let you remain the same. Fire does not negotiate, it transforms. It will make you too bright for compromise, too alive for apathy, too devoted for distraction. You may lose comfort, but you will gain clarity. The people who once misunderstood you will see the difference, not because you argued, but because you burn differently now. Your life will begin to carry an aroma of holiness that cannot be hidden, even in silence. The presence around you will testify that you have been touched by God. There is a sound that follows those marked by fire, a stillness that carries authority, a peace that carries weight. You will notice that doors open not by effort, but by essence. Your very existence will become permission for others to rise. The same fire that transformed you will begin to awaken those around you. This is how revival begins, not in crowds, but in individuals who have become flames. The fire upon you will not fade because it is not emotional, it is eternal. It is maintained by intimacy. Keep the altar of your heart tended. Feed the flame with prayer, humility, and worship. The more you surrender, the brighter it burns. The more you obey, the stronger it becomes. The seal of fire means that heaven recognizes you. You have been branded with divine ownership. When darkness sees you now, it recognizes a boundary it cannot cross. The mark upon your life is not visible to human eyes, but in the spirit realm. It shines brighter than the sun. You belong entirely to the King. This is the final phase of preparation before manifestation. The fire does not come merely to bless you, it comes to send you. You are being commissioned, even now, to carry this flame into places where hearts have grown cold. You will not need to force change. You will simply be light, and darkness will retreat. So do not fear the heat you feel within or the isolation that follows it. Fire always separates before it spreads. You are being sanctified for purpose, purified for presence, prepared for power. Let the fire finish its work. It is not consuming you, it is confirming you. The seal of fire is upon you. And from this day forward, nothing about your existence is ordinary. You are the torch heaven will use to ignite others. You are the evidence that surrender still sets people ablaze. You can feel it now, the pull, the awakening, the divine invitation to rise. After all you've endured, after every hidden battle and every secret victory, heaven is calling your name again, not to return to striving, but to step fully into authority. You are no longer just enduring seasons, you are shaping them. This is the moment where obedience turns into leadership, where surrender becomes strength. Heaven's voice whispers, "Rise, chosen one. You have been tested long enough. You have proven that your faith is not for show. Every season that humbled you was heaven's classroom. And now, the graduation bell rings in the spirit. You are being called to stand not in arrogance, but in alignment, as was written in the prophetic scroll of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. This verse is more than encouragement, it is a command. Arise, not tomorrow, not when conditions feel right, but now. The glory that has been forming in your hidden years is ready to shine through you. The waiting was never about delay, it was about development. The season of hiding was never punishment, it was preparation for revelation. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to burn brightly. Heaven has not poured this much fire into you just for survival. It was always about transformation. You have been marked to influence, to bring light into dark spaces, to remind others that surrender is strength. Your scars will soon become proof that God still heals, that endurance still leads to elevation. This call to rise is not about platform, it's about posture. The world doesn't need louder voices, it needs purer ones. It doesn't need more noise, it needs more presence. You carry that presence now. It's visible in the way you speak peace into storms, the way you forgive without explanation, the way you love without condition. You don't have to announce your light, it announces you. And yet, stepping into your calling will require courage. The moment you rise, the atmosphere changes. The same world that misunderstood your silence will be stunned by your strength. But do not shrink back. You were born for this hour. Heaven did not spend years refining you just for you to remain small. You are the embodiment of answered prayers. Someone's intercession long ago is manifesting through your life right now. You will notice that favor begins to find you again. Not because you are seeking it, but because you are aligned. Doors that refused to open before will unlock with ease. Opportunities that once intimidated you will now feel like divine invitations. That's the power of walking in calling you. Stop chasing and start attracting. You stop proving and start carrying. Beloved, your rising is not just for you, it's for others. When you stand in light, you give permission for others to do the same. Your courage becomes contagious. Your restoration becomes revival. The same people who once doubted your faith will begin to draw near, seeking the presence you carry. That is how heaven multiplies impact through one obedient soul who decides to rise. So today, let this message settle deep. Let it stir what's been sleeping inside you. You don't need to have every answer. You just need to move. Heaven perfects the rest. You are standing on sacred ground, the threshold between preparation and purpose. And when you step forward, the whole realm of heaven moves with you. If this word resonates with your spirit, if you can feel that holy stirring within, then take a moment to acknowledge it. Don't rush past this. Let your action match your revelation. Like this message, if it reminds you of who you truly are, share it so another weary heart can remember that they too can rise. Subscribe if you haven't yet, not for routine, but to remain connected to this current of divine encouragement that keeps your fire burning. And then, write in the comments below, "I choose my crown." Those 4 words are not empty, they are covenantal. They declare that you accept the mantle of purpose heaven has placed on your shoulders. When you type them, you are not making a casual statement, you are affirming divine agreement. You are saying, "I refuse to shrink back into fear. I accept my calling. I will walk in the authority purchased for me." This is not just another moment of motivation, it is an activation. Heaven recognizes when a chosen one accepts their crown. Angels take note. Destiny shifts. Every step you take from this point carries royal weight. So rise. Beloved, your light has come. The world is waiting for the sound of your obedience and the fire of your faith. Step forward with confidence, not because you're ready, but because He is with you. Your crown is not given in pride, but in purpose. And you, chosen one, are ready to wear it well. When heaven shifts, the earth cannot stay still. What you once felt as delay was never denial. It was the time needed for alignment. The spiritual movement that began in your obedience has finally reached the realm of the physical. And now the world around you is beginning to catch up with what God has already declared. You are living in the unfolding of answered prayer. There is something sacred about this moment, the in-between space where promises begin to take shape. The signs may appear: subtle peace where there was confusion, restoration where there was regret, progress in places that long seemed barren. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations that heaven's decree is now manifesting in time. You are witnessing the natural world respond to spiritual authority. The same obedience that shifted the atmosphere is now shaping reality. The fruit is starting to emerge from the soil watered by your tears. The doors that once seemed sealed are beginning to unlock, not through force, but through favor. The current of divine order has been released, and everything that belongs to you is being drawn toward you. The prophet Isaiah recorded this unshakable truth in the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 11. So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but accomplish my purpose. That promise is living inside your present moment. The words spoken over your life were not forgotten. They were simply traveling through the corridors of time, gathering strength. And now, they have reached you mature, potent, unstoppable. God's word never drifts in vain. It always lands on time. You are standing beneath the rain of fulfillment. The drought has broken. What once looked lifeless is stirring again, because heaven's decree has finally collided with the appointed hour. The waiting was never wasted. It was watering the soil of destiny. The unseen roots of your faith are now pushing through the surface. The earth itself recognizes this shift. People who once dismissed you will begin to sense something different. The same places that rejected you will now open with welcome. The same plans that failed will now flourish without striving. This is the evidence of divine synchronization. When heaven releases permission, earth must respond in obedience. The time between promise and manifestation always feels long, because heaven is eternal and earth is slow. But you, chosen one, have remained faithful through that gap. You did not abandon the process, and because you stayed, heaven is rewarding you with manifestation that no human effort could create. You are not stepping into something new, you are stepping into something finished. What was completed in the Spirit long ago is now unfolding before your eyes. That is why there is a strange peace around you lately. Even when things still look uncertain, your spirit already knows it's done. Everything around you is adjusting to your obedience. Environments are shifting, opportunities are rearranging, and even time seems to stretch in your favor. That is the effect of divine alignment. You are no longer fighting to make things happen. Things are now fighting to find you. This is the mystery of the manifested word. It never needs assistance, only agreement. You agreed with heaven, and heaven is now enforcing what you believed. The same Spirit that sustained you in waiting is now guiding you in walking. The same faith that helped you endure delay is now empowering you to handle acceleration. Stay grounded. The manifestation is real, but it's also holy. Do not mistake movement for permission to forget humility. The higher God lifts you, the deeper your roots must remain in gratitude. This is how the blessing stays pure, by remaining anchored in reverence. There is a beauty in this balance: manifestation without arrogance, authority without ambition. You are walking proof that promises fulfilled are not the end of obedience. They are its continuation. The word that found you will now flow through you, touching lives, transforming atmospheres, and multiplying what you once only dreamed. The earth has felt the tremor of your obedience, and heaven smiles. You have become the bridge between what was promised and what is present. Walk forward gently, knowing that every step now carries the fragrance of fulfillment. There are moments when heaven pulls back the veil and lets you see what all the struggle was for. You stand now at that threshold, chosen one, the quiet summit after years of climbing through shadow. The wind feels different here. The air is lighter. You sense it in your spirit before your eyes can see it. The war has ended. What was raging against you has bowed. The balance has shifted permanently in your favor. From the very beginning, this journey was never about survival. It was about transformation. Every season you endured was molding you into someone unbreakable. You began as a servant, trembling under the weight of uncertainty. But you have emerged as a warrior robed in wisdom. You no longer react, you discern. You no longer beg, you decree. Heaven has matured you through fire, and now you walk in flame without being burned. The prophet John recorded a promise that now breathes through your very being in the book of Revelation. Chapter 3, verse 21, to the one who is victorious, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne. Just as I was victorious and sat down with my Father on his throne. That verse is not a distant dream, it is your present inheritance. You have walked through the valley and learned the language of the King. You understand now that victory is not about conquering others, but conquering yourself, your fears, your impatience, your need to control outcomes. You have overcome by surrender. That is why you sit now, spiritually enthroned, not above people, but above the chaos that once ruled you. Look back for a moment, not with sorrow, but with awe. See the pattern, the sleepless nights that taught you how to pray, the losses that carved out compassion, the waiting that built endurance. Nothing was wasted. Even your mistakes became lessons wrapped in mercy. Every detour led you back to dependence. What looked like delay was protection. What felt like silence was strategy. You thought God had forgotten you, but he was fortifying you. And now, in this quiet aftermath, you finally understand the victory was never loud. It was always internal. The real battle was not about circumstances, it was about alignment. The moment your heart surrendered fully to the will of God, the war was over. Everything since then has simply been manifestation of that surrender. The realm of spirit recognizes you now. Angels know you're sent. They've walked beside you long enough to remember your prayers. The darkness that once taunted you now keeps its distance. The authority you carry isn't borrowed, it's embedded. You wear peace like armor and speak hope as naturally as breath. You have become a living embassy of heaven on earth. This is what it means to shift realms, to live untouched by panic while the world trembles. To see opportunity in ashes. To hear God's whisper louder than fear's roar. You no longer seek signs. You are the sign. The alignment of heaven and earth is visible in your life, the evidence that obedience still overturns darkness. Heaven rejoices not just because you made it through, but because you made it through still believing. The purity of your faith has become its own testimony. There are crowns prepared for such faith. But even now, you taste their substance in peace that cannot be shaken. You have learned the secret of saints and prophets, that surrender is the highest form of victory. There will still be days of testing, but they will not unsettle you as before. You have learned that God's presence is not proven by comfort, but by constancy. When the storm rises again, and it will, you will not cry out in fear. You will simply whisper, "I know this sound," and the storm will remember your authority. You have become what you once prayed to find stability in human form, light in living motion. Heaven does not need to remind you of your identity anymore. You know it. You carry it in your stillness, in the way you treat others, in the way you forgive quickly and love deeply. You have become one with your calling. The years ahead will not be defined by striving, but by stewardship. You will guide others through storms you've already conquered. Your voice will steady trembling hearts because it carries the resonance of survival. You will not preach deliverance, you will embody it. Every conversation, every act of kindness, every quiet prayer will release power into the atmosphere. Because you no longer speak about the kingdom, you speak from it. This is the final revelation of your journey. You were never meant merely to witness miracles, you were meant to become one. Every battle, every waiting season, every fiery trial has sculpted you into living evidence of God's faithfulness. You are not a servant looking for signs, you are a son, a daughter, carrying the signature of heaven. And as you walk forward from this point, there will be peace, not the fragile kind that depends on circumstances, but the enduring kind that transcends them. You will find yourself smiling at storms, praying with boldness, dreaming again without fear. The same spirit that sustained you through the fire will now propel you into fruitfulness. This is what it means to be victorious, not the absence of battle, but the mastery of peace in the middle of it. The heavens have declared your triumph, and the earth will soon reflect it. You are the proof that quiet obedience can move armies, that unseen faith can rewrite outcomes, that divine love can rebuild anything it touches. Rest now in this truth. You were never merely surviving the war. You were shifting realms, rebuilding altars, realigning history. You have become the living intersection where heaven meets earth. The fire that once purified you now lights the path ahead. The battle is over, but the glory has just begun. Chosen one. If your heart has reached this final line, heaven knows why. You were meant to hear these words. This was not random scrolling, not coincidence. It was a divine appointment. Every sentence you read was crafted to remind you of what heaven already declared. You are chosen, sealed, and destined to rise. Pause for a moment and breathe. Feel the stillness in your chest. That peace is confirmation. You have walked through 17 realms of revelation, and each one carried a seed for your future. Now, as this journey closes, it truly begins. You are stepping into a season where your words carry authority, your presence carries healing, and your obedience carries weight. Heaven recognizes you, and the earth will soon follow. If these messages have strengthened your spirit, let your response become part of their purpose. Like this message as a quiet act of agreement with heaven. Share it not for numbers, but so another weary heart might find light, where darkness whispered. Your small act of sharing may be the thread that pulls someone else out of despair. And, if you have not yet subscribed, do it now, not as routine, but as commitment to stay connected to a flow that keeps your fire burning. This space is not about performance, it's about presence. Every word shared here is meant to remind you that you are seen, that your faith matters, that your story still unfolds under grace. Finally, in the comments, write the words, "I am still chosen." Let that declaration echo through the realm of spirit and time. It is not a phrase, it is a seal. It means that no matter what comes next, you remain aligned, anchored, and anointed. The battle has shifted, the victory stands, and you, beloved, are still chosen.